And I got one from Angie, I think. We want to throw that up there. What's the difference between all the companies that hold money? And so they'd elaborated a little bit, and she'd said, what about like Schwab and Fidelity and Empower and all these other things? Like, what are these places? How does this work? What's the difference between them? It was a great question. Like, have you done anything on this? And I said, no. I don't know if I have. So we'll do it now. Right. So you invest in. I think we can we zoom this out, Ethan? I think it might be zoomed all the way in still. There we go. Perfect. You invest in, right, for the most part, mutual funds, ETFs, right? Those are collections of, and those are collections of, inside of mutual funds or ETFs, those are just bonds or equity funds or equities, right? It's like those are the actual things we invest in. But where all those things are held, right? What are the companies that actually hold the mutual funds, that hold the ETFs, that hold whatever else, right? And there's a whole bunch. The most common one that holds things are your custodian. Okay? These would be things like Charles Schwab. That's who we use primarily. Schwab, there we go. Charles Schwab, Fidelity, right? Pershing is another big one for other advisors. And then even things like Vanguard could be considered a custodian because they do have a brokerage platform that allows them to do Vanguard. There we go. So all these places actually hold your money. You log into these places. You can see your money in there. They're holding it. Maybe you've got IRAs. So right, mutual funds, ETFs, etc. Those are inside of either an IRA. I'll put this on the side. An IRA or a Roth. Right. So you have the types of investments inside a type of account that's held at a custodian. Right. And so you'd also have things like Empower. Does a lot of 401ks, Principal, all these different things. Those are the ones that hold your money inside of it. All right. Now, when you have a 401k, sometimes you interact directly with the custodian. Like Fidelity holds your 401k and you just sign into Fidelity. Sometimes with 401ks, there is a third-party administrator, some other firm that you actually log into to do things, to submit requests, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times, you just log in directly to the 401k. If you're working with an advisor, not only is there a custodian, but there's also a broker-dealer. And these are the people that allow you advisors to sell commissionable products. And so what can happen with a lot of other advisors, right, is you have the broker-dealer and the custodian. So before I launched this firm that I currently work with, I worked for two other firms, and one was an insurance-based broker-dealer, and one was an independent broker-dealer. And so it was, I'm not going to actually say because I don't want to get in trouble, but, and those ones worked with Fidelity and Pershing. And so when I worked with, my broker-dealer, we'll say, I would interact with you, but then if we wanted to do something, I had to go through the broker-dealer to the custodian. I wasn't allowed to talk to Fidelity directly, and I wasn't allowed to talk to Pershing directly. They both have their own platforms and their own support staff and whatever else, but I had to go through the broker-dealers that I was affiliated with in order to do that. And so what often happens is broker-dealers are just this extra layer, this middleman in the middle that allows advisors to sell annuities and commissionable mutual funds and all this other stuff. But because they have their own whole layer of technology, of people, of support staff, it adds a whole extra layer of fees to this, right? Which is why generally we recommend that people work with no broker dealers, and they work, if you want to work with someone, right, you can always try to do this on your own, and good luck to you if you do that. But try to work with what would be considered a registered investment advisor. And those are people that are registered directly with either the state or the federal government, like where if you get big enough, like we register directly with the federal government, with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And they will work directly with a custodian and you. So there's no middleman, right? And so like our clients, they have all their money at Charles Schwab, and I can talk directly to Schwab. We log into Schwab ourselves. We manage their money there. We send them money back to their accounts there. It's all in one place. There's no more middleman that's just adding fees, adding complexity that we don't really need. Pershing only works with broker dealers. and so you're not really going to have access to them. And so you'd find a RA that has their stuff at Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Altruist is another big one that's coming up. That's a good one. Vanguard doesn't really work with custodians. Empower works mostly with 401ks. And so there's different pools of people, companies that do different things, but for the most part, custodians is where your money is actually held, and then it just depends on where do you need to go through to get there, right? So hopefully that's helpful. Again, if you're working with people, we generally recommend stay away from insurance companies in general, aka insurance-based broker dealers. And again, if you're ever curious, you can go onto an advisor's website, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and it will say somewhere on there, investment advisory services provided through X, and insurance and whatever is sold through Y. So you can find out who they're actually working for, because a lot of times they have like their own branding, but who they're working for is on the bottom. So hopefully that's helpful.